There you are. Hey, this is Ty Bruner, and welcome to The People We Meet. This is a show about ordinary people that have done and lived through extraordinary things. Thanks for being here, and let's get on with it. Hello, and welcome to another episode of The People We Meet. Today, I'm sitting here with Eddie Williams. He is a professional bowler and the bowling pro at the Lilac Lanes in Spokane, Washington. I've known Eddie for several years now, but I realized just recently that I don't really know Eddie. So I thought it was about time that we sat down and found out, had a conversation. Eddie, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate being invited.
It's nice to have you here. And all of the great stories have very similar beginnings. Eddie, where were you born?
Born in Brooklyn, New York. Moved to California after living in Buffalo for a short time. So basically, Southern California is my roots.
And where in Southern California?
Started off in Hollywood, ended up in Van Nuys, Chatsworth area. So spent a lot of time in the Valley.
Did you move around a lot? It sounds like
no, we didn't move around a lot so much as, moving from New York to California was the biggest move. And we just kind of went from living in an apartment to my mom and dad purchasing a home. And so after that, we were pretty stable in Van Nuys, California.
What were your folks like? What was your family life like?
My mom and dad were great people, hard workers. Mom passed away in 2008. So it's been quite the change since that happened.
Yeah, I imagine.
Family, that kind of broke us a little bit. I'm going to say that. Every family has a piece of family that's the glue to the family. And my mom was definitely that person.
You said 2008?
Yeah.
That's right around the time that I met you, too.
Well, it's interesting because I moved up here in 2006. And by chance, it was just because friends had moved up here. And I had lived in California for most of my life. I was like 38, 39 years old, and I wanted to change. LA's a rat race, run fast or get run over type of thing. And so I wanted a slower pace of life and just enjoy life a little bit more. So friends lived up here. I came and visited, and I found that I liked it because I liked the pace of the life. And so I applied for a job here at Lilac Lanes just as a lead coordinator. And I got the job, and literally 6 months later, through just miracles, friends of mine ended up purchasing the business. So I ended up running the business for them.
Nice. Okay. All right. So let's, did they know who they were getting when you showed up?
Who were they? You tell me.
Well, the people. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. We're friends from Southern California.
Okay.
So it was three of us. And when I moved up here, we kept in touch, and I shared with them. I said, if you guys were serious about purchasing a bowling center, you should come up and see this center because it's for sale.
So backing up, and how old were you when you moved from Buffalo to California?
I was 8.
Okay.
7.
And what was it like to switch for you? Good.
It was interesting because not knowing really too much when you're 8 years old, you're going from snow to sunny weather, 365 pretty much, was kind of a change that we adjusted to. But, being young, you're adaptable. So
right.
We adapted.
So what kind of neighborhood did you live in Brooklyn?
Again, I was really young at the time, so I couldn't tell you. I will share with you that my dad, when we lived in Buffalo, used to take me to the bowling center, knowing. He would take me to the bowling center because he loved to bowl.
Okay.
So it was one of those loves that I didn't know I even had until probably 13, 14, 15 years old.
Okay. So I was getting there because I was thinking about this before I was thinking about this earlier. So when you got to California, what kind of neighborhood did you move into there? It was a pretty big change.
So we lived in West Hollywood for a little while. So we lived in a very nice area. It was decent, not too far from the beach. We lived in a 4-bedroom apartment, so it was really big. Soon after that, because my aunt, who used to sing with Rita Coolidge, Donna Summers, she told my family, told my mom and dad, hey, will you guys please come out here I'll help you set up and bring my kids with you. So it was 5 of us that lived together, sister, brother, 2 cousins. And so we were a house full.
Okay.
And so we moved to Hollywood, West Hollywood first, and then we ended up moving to the San Fernando Valley.
Okay.
So at age 14, 15, we lived in the San Fernando Valley. And from there, that's where we remained there.
So it was household, brothers and sisters and cousins.
Yes.
So 1 brother, 1 sister?
1 brother, 1 sister.
And where do you fit in the hierarchy?
The middle.
In the middle?
Yes.
The middle kid. Were you?
I'm in the middle, man. That's okay.
So how old is who's oldest?
My sister.
Your sister, and how much older is she?
She is 3 years older, 4 years older. She was born in 1963. I was born in 1966.
Okay. And brother,
he's 4 or 5 years younger than me.
Okay.
51, 52, somewhere in there.
Okay. So there's a little.
Funny you're asking me that question. I have to think back on that. In fact, if I think about it, he's 53.
Well, the older we get, the more we have to think about it.
100%. 100%.
So did you get along with your brothers and sisters?
Absolutely.
You guys ran around together?
Yeah, we ran around together. We did a lot of fun things together. As we got older and as I developed into, I guess, what I like to do, we did start doing less things together. That's for sure.
Yeah, I can imagine. You start finding your own interests and stuff. So I realized I grew up loving bowling. I mean, that was one of the things that I did with my family. You know, it's like I think it was one of the few activities that we could do as a family. Bowling leagues when I was a kid on Air Force Base. And then when I was in high school, there was a bowling team at my school, and I was the only freshman on the bowling team. I was actually a pretty decent bowler. I love bowling. But then I realized it's like bowling for fun and bowling for realsies that's probably a big difference. So tell me how you grew into this love of bowling, and at what point did you go, hey man, I'm gonna make some money. I'm gonna be a pro.
Well, I'm glad you didn't say make money, because bowling's very hard to make money. There was a time, I think I was 12 or 13, and my stepsister worked in a bowling center. Mm-hmm. So we're on Easter vacation, and she took me with her to work, and I was really comfortable being at a bowling center. So she said, hey, I'll give you a lane and you can just bowl, and when you're hungry, let me know. Well, that's what started it, because I bowled 32 games that day.
Oh my God.
Front and back of the sheet,
And you were how old?
I was 12, 13. And I just found the game to come naturally. And I understood, because when I was younger, my mom loved bowling, just like your family. We're a big bowling family. Mm-hmm. And as a matter of fact, when it got to around 3:00 in the afternoon on a Saturday, when ABC Wild World of Sports was on and bowling was coming on, I would be outside playing football. Mm-hmm. I would say, bowling's coming on. I would say, next touchdown wins, because I had to get inside.
So you dug it early.
Yeah, I dug it early because I wanted to understand and study ball motion. And that was what really drove me, was to understand how to get a strike. Mm-hmm. And why didn't I get a strike? So those questions was something I had to look at to understand, okay, I understood why that didn't happen, or I understood why this did happen. And so it was one of those things that I kind of self-taught, and I was very blessed because I was around a lot of excellent bowlers as I grew up. Mm-hmm. But when I was young, I was just studying ball motion.
Okay. Because I didn't know anything about ball motion. I mean, I had a straight ball, and it either went straight because I threw it the way I meant to throw it, or it didn't go straight because I screwed up. And then, as I got older, I started hearing people talking about ball motion and like how the lanes were oiled and all this. Is like, and making excuses for why they didn't get a strike, because I'm like, the looks like the lanes aren't oiled. It's uneven on one side or the other. I'm like, I just don't think you could throw the ball, man.
Yeah, the truth of the matter is, you are the person who is attempting to make this shot. So if you're not paying attention to what's going on, because lanes do tell you, you can find any excuse. Bowlers always find excuses.
Absolutely. So walk me through it. How do you go from a 12 or 13-year-old kid who threw 32 games in one day, when you're still young enough and fragile enough to get away with that? what happened after that?
I actually stopped bowling for a little while, and then a friend of mine, his name was Mark Nagy. We were in high school together, and we went bowling one day.
Mm-hmm.
And he said to me, he goes, "Wow, you're pretty good. Why don't you join my traveling league?" And I said, okay. It was on Saturdays or Sundays. It depends. And so I joined the traveling league with him because, again, I started to find out how much I really enjoyed the game. And so I joined this league with him, and I traveled around San Fernando Valley, part of LA, bowling league.
Mm-hmm.
And come to find out that I was pretty good at it. And other people recognized that and had invited me to this league called the Greater Los Angeles Junior All-Stars.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a representation of all of the best juniors in Southern California. And we would travel from anywhere from San Francisco to San Diego, bowling in different bowling centers, bowling league. A lot of it was centrally located in Los Angeles. At the time, there was a lot of bowling centers.
Mm-hmm.
And so we went to travel, and I learned a lot, met a lot of great people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I started to really understand what I could do and what I couldn't do, and my abilities, what I needed to accomplish if I wanted to get where I wanted to go.
So when you say what you could do and what you could do, what were your strengths?
So my strengths was speed and rotation at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
But you come to realize, again, we talked about lane conditions,
Mm-hmm.
and you need to understand the versatility that's required to bowl well if you're going to be consistent. And consistency comes with, failure.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think in anything you do, especially independent sport, you're going to fail while you're learning. And that was probably the hardest thing to accept. But at the same time, if you're patient and you understand, I just got to learn. And as I learn, you see things, they become repetitive as far as what you see.
Mm-hmm.
And you start to make adjustments to those things that do occur. And before you know it, you kind of understand and you accept.
Mm-hmm.
Bowling's a game of acceptance.
And so what are your weaknesses? What did you consider to be your weaknesses at the time?
My inability to understand when not to overthrow it,
Mm-hmm.
when to learn how to move my feet, move my eyes, move in. Sometimes as a left-hander, and that's what I am, a left-hander, you come to find out that there's parts of the lane that we don't get to play very often, or we don't play very well. So when put in that position, you must learn how to play those parts of the lane. And during those times, you're going to fail. So you need to come home and hone your skills and learn how to play that part of the lane in order to be successful, if that's what you want to do.
I think that's interesting. You said that. It's like because there's a lot of people out there with the talent.
100%.
But the ability to learn from failure and have the patience to stick with it, I think that goes a long way towards differentiating the people that grow and go on to a higher level than those who decide that it's just not fun anymore because it's not going their way.
Yes. You said it in a nutshell right there, my friend.
So now this could be because I wasn't paying attention, and I don't really look at things this way. But as I look back, because I grew up, on the Bowling for Dollars would be on.
You're right.
That'd give away my age with that. But I dug the wide world of sports too. And when bowling was on, I watched it. But as I remember, I don't recall ever seeing an African American on the professional circuit.
There was Curtis Odom. George Branham was really, at that time, the most prominent African American to ever bowl, and successful. And I want to say George won 5 times. I'm not sure, but George was probably one of the more successful ones. Ironically, I roomed with him a couple of times when I did eventually get out on tour. You sharing that, I'll share a story with you. There was a gentleman named Bill Taylor who actually designed a lot of what people fit their customers with, called the ball fitter. And his name was Bill Taylor. Fantastic man. Very strange and then highly intelligent. Intelligent man. And he shared that with me. Once he started working with me a little bit, he said, Eddie, there's not very many of you guys. And he meant it in the sweetest way. And he thought that if you can get there, you could be one of one. in that realm. And so that helped me. It inspired me a little bit, but bowling's a business.
Mm-hmm.
So once you get to that level, it's a business, and you need to understand that too.
Okay. So let's go back to where we were with the junior circuit, right?
Yeah.
Traveling around pretty much mostly through California.
Yes.
And how many years were you on that?
Well, I bowled the Greater Los Angeles Junior All-Stars for probably 3 or 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
When I did decide to leave the Greater Los Angeles Junior All-Stars, it's because a lot of my friends were leaving at the same time. And you transition out as you get older, 18, 19 years old. At that time, you can leave at 22. Well, most of us were leaving at 19, 20 because we're all friends and we all had plans, life plans or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, during that time, there was a lot of big amateur tournaments that took place in Las Vegas. So a lot of us were like, we're going to go bowl these tournaments. Where are we going to stay as a junior? So there was $200,000 tournaments, $100,000 tournaments that were taking place annually in Las Vegas. So a lot of us went and bowled those events.
Nice.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun.
And you were having the time of your life?
It was what a great learning experience.
Yeah.
Because the events that I participated in they were events where your entry fee was $1,000,
mm-hmm.
$1,100 as it rose in a single game eliminations. So you invested $1,000.
And this was at this time, whose money were you investing?
Yeah. So I would either sell shares or I'd save money, and $1,000 entry fee. And you would go to Las Vegas, you draw a lane, whoever you drew, if you beat them, you advance. You lost, you went home.
How did you're a kid though.
Well,
$1,000.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's a lot to save up.
Yeah.
I didn't hardly have to.
Well, I didn't. Again, I said sponsors too. I had people who helped me along the way, because it was expensive. But you learn a lot about yourself when you're in that situation. You learn a lot about who you are. Can you handle it? Can you throw a shot?
Mm-hmm.
Come off your hand?
Yeah.
Because there's probably 800 to 900 people bowling this event. It's a huge event.
Mm-hmm.
And luck of the draw plays a lot into how far you go.
So how frequently did you find that how frequently did you win? I mean, did you find that, you'd enter into these things and, the first few times like I got waxed and went home, or did you go in and just kick ass right out of the chute?
So my very first event, and I'll never forget this, I drew a lane, and prior to drawing for your lane, you would have a practice session.
Mm-hmm.
And this practice session, you'd see everyone bowling. You just randomly go through. And at the showboat, there's 106 lanes.
Mm-hmm.
And so you would just move around. And my girlfriend and I at the time were watching this gentleman bowl, and he had a very unique game.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, look at this game. So anyways, fast forward to the draw.
What was unique about it?
He just had a lot of twists and turns in his body.
Uh-huh.
It wasn't traditional in how he threw a bowling ball. And so we picked him out just because of his uniqueness.
Mm-hmm.
Draw lanes. That's who I draw. I draw him.
And then you got him.
Yeah. His name is Mike Lichting. And fantastic bowler. Great person.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this is me saying that after the fact, because we don't know each other.
Right.
But we drew each other. Probably the greatest match I've ever bowled in my life.
So it kind of set the stage for...
Well, it set the stage because I remember sitting there 5 minutes before practice started and looking at my shirt and seeing my shirt shake because my heart was racing so fast. Because I'm looking back at my girlfriend and I'm like, one game, we stayed across the street at a hotel, which is really a motel.
Mm-hmm.
Again, a lot of money, just trying to get there, trying to do it. And I just wondered if I can do this. But I shot 237. He shot 233. Greatest match I ever bowled in my life. We looked at each other. He told me, great match. I thanked him. I think I went 5 rounds that year. Probably my best showing in that event because years after I would lose 198, 196. Certain matches you just lose because someone out executes you. But it taught me that I could do this. It did tell me that. So I knew I could handle executing if need be. I can focus hard enough and execute well enough that if I want to do this for a living, I might have a chance.
You didn't crumple like a paper shack under the pressure.
I didn't. In that event, when you're putting $1,000 up, there was games where people shot 105, 120, so, it's just, it was very, it gave me strength in understanding that I could do this.
Yeah. And it probably, like you start off with a cool match with a cool guy, and it's like, okay, that's the first impression, and that's what you probably took with you.
Right.
So when you mentioned, okay, you bowled, what'd you say, 237? And, okay. And that there were other like high level bowlers that showed up and bowled like dog shit, like 105, like anything that they would probably be pissed about, right?
Right.
How much of that is a result of practice?
Again, good question. I'm not sure how much anyone puts in. You can only go by what you put in. So some people practice a lot. Some people bowl a lot. Some people don't. Some people come natural. And they don't need to.
That's got to be aggravating.
It is definitely aggravating. There's a funny story that George shared with me. Randy Peterson, who is a color commentary for the PBA now, on Fox, he's when they were bowling, they used to room together. George would go to bed early. Randy come in late. They both have to bowl the same squad. George averaged 220 that day for his 8 games of bowling. Randy had averaged 238. And he go, I didn't understand how he can sleep less than me and not care. This guy, George, is in the gym. He's doing all of this stuff. Randy's just natural, just a gifted bowler. He would just outstrike him. It's amazing. Bowling's it's a game. So
how did you progress from there?
So, I got to an age where I was 27, 28, 29 in that window, and I had to make a decision as far as what I wanted to do, if I wanted to take a chance and try to bowl on PBA tour. So I was very fortunate to have established great relationships in the bowling center that I was currently working in at that time. My owner, his name was Bill Masani, one of the greatest men I've ever met in my life, great businessman, helped me get sponsored, sold shares, and got enough to go out on tour. So I went out and bowled roughly 30 stops over the course of 2 years.
So bowling on the tour, is it with pretty much the same dudes?
Parker Bone, Weber, all those guys, Did
you get along with those guys pretty well?
Well, it's a business. And so, I got along with them. I respected all of them because they're so super talented. Bowling is a game where you have a lot of talented people, not a lot of money to get to share. So the cream, it's a small number that can do this successfully and make a living out of it. A lot of them, and like myself, when you didn't bowl well, when you came home, you're looking for a job. Bills need to get paid. The reality is, if you're not in the top 10 or 15 on tour, you need to come home and you're going to continue to bowl, but you're also going to have to work, because the money just wasn't deep enough.
Yeah, I can dig that. So when you get to the professional level in any sport, there's got to be some key ingredients that weed out those that go on to be professionals from those that don't. Now let's take raw talent out of it because that's a given.
Right.
What would you consider the other ingredients to be?
Good question. In order to stay out there on tour, besides your, like you said, raw abilities, it's a financial backing because it is that hard. It's a lot of money to spend to travel, to compete against the best movers in the world, not just in your neighborhood, not just in your state. So that number gets real small. And so it's razor thin between getting a check and missing a check. It could be, people don't think about this. It could be the fill ball in your 10th frame. How many times did you get up there and only get 7 after picking up a spare? You do that 4 times and you lost 8 to 10 pins. And all of a sudden you miss a check by 4 pins. So everything matters out there. It's very minute difference between success and failure out there.
Okay. So raw talent, financial backing. You got to pay to play because sometimes it goes your ways and sometimes it doesn't.
There's weeks where you go 2 or 3 weeks without getting a check. and you got to figure this out.
So, okay. So what's next? What's the next thing?
So after I went out on tour and I enjoyed the game, I really said to myself, I was in Florida and I bowled with Nelson Burton Jr. in this tournament. And at the time it was when Kegel, who is a big bowling company now, they're part of bowling. They really created what bowling is now. Mm-hmm. They started to come out and establish themselves as to what they can do for bowling. That week, things didn't go right for Kegel as far as when we were supposed to get the oil that they were going to put on our lands. And so it came out, hours before. We didn't practice on it. Mm-hmm. And I remember getting, when you're a professional bowler, and you're being told, okay, if the ball does this, do this. If the ball does that, do this. And you're going, wait a minute. Now, I realized that they were trying to establish something that was going to be unique for the tour. Mm-hmm. But we're basically being used to a point. Okay. Now, something like that should have been done on a regional level or something like that prior to going out on tour and just making sure, because the oil had to sit for a certain amount of time in order for the pattern to play correctly. Right. And these are the depths of bowling that people don't understand. And at this time, it wasn't allowed to be set that long because we had a starting time of 8 o'clock in the morning. Well, lanes didn't get dressed till this much time. This is what's going to happen. And so I realized then when it comes down to making it your livelihood, those things make it really hard. And I had a decision then that maybe I love the game so much that I don't want to do this professionally, but I want to stay in the game of bowling because I love it that much.
That's something I was going to ask you about, because a lot of people, I don't know if it's a lot of people or not, but sometimes the joy is lost when it now becomes a necessity. It's like writing a book. I mean, you write an amazing book because it was fun to write the book, but now all of a sudden you're under contract and you have to write 2 more books to fulfill the contracts, and you write 1 book and 2 shitty books.
Right, exactly. Because that creative side, that fun side that you started with now becomes a job. Right. And unless you really love the challenge and you are accepting of even possibly more failures, and if you have a family or you have whatever you have on the backside of what you're trying to accomplish, how much are you going to sacrifice and give away? It wasn't for the lack of confidence. It was, do I want to do this and frustrate myself and fall out of love with the game that I love? And my answer was no. I wanted to know that I can enjoy this game and I will always enjoy this game. But going out and stretching myself to a sacrifice that could require me to look back with regret was not what I wanted to give up. So I stayed in the game that I loved, and I chose to run a bowling center and be in the game and still participate. But I wanted to be part of bowling, and I wanted to, because I understood customer service, right, and I understood how to treat people. Yeah. And I felt like I can do that, and I can bring a team together, and we can do this together. And I would still love the game. Yeah. So now, how many years total were you on the tour? Oh, just a couple of years. I only bowled like 30 stops. Okay. Like I said, that tournament was an eye-opening tournament in that it wasn't that I was afraid of continuing. What I didn't want to do is have someone tell me, today you're going to average 240 and tomorrow you're not. And that's all based on how they dress the lanes and what they decide they want to do. The game of bowling is a game where if you have 100 people, and I'm just using a round number, I would say 85 are going to be right-handed. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. 15 are going to be left-handed. The game of bowling is, listen, and this was told to me, at the end of the year, we look at the numbers. And out of 100%, if 85% of that money goes to the right side, and 15% go to the left side, we don't care who gets that percentage of that money. What we care about is that the money was dispersed equally based on the numbers. Gotcha. Now, that was back in the day. I don't think it's like that anymore because of what they've done and patterns that they use. Back in the day, they didn't have these things that they have currently. So it was a different animal.
Yeah.
And that was okay. And I accepted that. I understood that. And so that's where I had to make a decision that you're not going to ruin my joy of what I like to do.
Yeah.
So I would rather not become one of those bitter bowlers.
Well, we appreciate that. Now, you still don't you hold a couple of records in the state?
I currently hold the state record, which I'm surprised I still have it, to be honest with you. I have the state record for 3 games and 4 games, so 898, and I've done that twice, and I shot 1177 for 4 games, which consisted of 300, a 299, a 299, and a 279.
Dang.
That's a good night.
Yeah. Awesome. So when did you get your first 300?
When I was 18, 17, 18. And I can tell you, my dad was there that night. My dad left before I shot my first 300. And I remember having the first 11, and I remember taking my first step. And I remember the ball coming off my hand, and that's all I remember. My brain kind of went blank, and I can still picture that ball coming off my hand. So yeah, I remember coming home and telling him I shot 300. He goes, "I left," and I'm like, "Yes, you did."
Does anything change after you roll the perfect game?
No, except confidence that you've done it. I remember this young lady saying to me, because I was kind of nonchalant about it. And she says, "You can smile. You shot 300. And I said to myself, I'm going to do this again.
Yeah.
So I wasn't overly joyful because it was something I strived for. I practiced a lot. So me doing it was something I felt I deserved based on the work I put in.
Yeah.
And I also knew that I was going to do that again. And I've done it plenty of times since. So
I've never, you know how many times I've done it?
How many?
0.
But you know what? You don't put yourself in a position like I have. And I share this story with people. I said, when you put the time in, and I see a lot of bowlers in my bowling center put time in, and I am overly thrilled when they shoot their first 300 because I know and I see them coming in here and practicing and trying and getting the ball drilled and trying and they love the game. And that's what they strive for. So when I see them shoot their first one, it gives me nothing but joy because I understand that.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
That's pretty neat. I was like, and it's funny because I've enjoyed the game of bowling my entire life. I haven't done it much lately, but it was always just fun for me. And it was like, I don't know how many times, I come the third or fourth frame, maybe even the first or second. I'm like, well, there goes the 300.
Yeah, it's funny. I remember you bowling league on Thursday nights, and that league right there is one of those leagues that joyous. A lot of fun people.
Yeah.
I think league, when I talk to people about the game of bowling is a game where you get to meet all walks of life.
Yes.
And it's fantastic. And people don't understand that when you walk in a bowling center and you join a league or you just go into a bowling center on a consistent basis, you're going to meet every walk of life. And it's amazing. I know someone who does this. I know someone who does that. I have connection to this or to that. And those things are invaluable.
Yeah, and it can be a complete departure from everything else that's going on in your life.
Right.
Remember, it was helpful to me when I was in high school because during, I guess, I don't know, it was a difficult time sometimes, but I always looked forward to my bowling night. My dad was there, my stepmom was there, and we'd all meet up at the bowling alley and bowl. And, and I was, no homework got done that night, but it was always fun. Now, did your family support you from the very beginning?
Yeah, my mom and dad supported me. Now, they didn't come to all my events. They always knew I was bowling. They were very supportive and very happy of my successes. So when I was on tour, and I remember the first time I made the cut, my dad and my cousin said, "Hey, we're going to come out and watch." I panicked. No, don't come. Please don't come. Because you're in a certain rhythm, in a certain zone. And when something comes in that it just takes away a little bit. And I couldn't tell my dad not to. I love my dad.
Yeah.
Come. It was just a challenge for me to balance both of those things. Now my dad's here. I'm singularly focused right now. And now I have to add a piece.
Right.
Those are difficult things to do. when you're not sure how to do them, how to accomplish those things. If you're in my life every day and you're with me while I'm going through this, then you're just part of it. When you see me do it and you're from the outside and then you jump in,
gotcha.
You kind of miss.
It kind of changes things a little bit. There's some like expectations there. And,
yes, exactly.
And what'd your brother and sister end up doing?
Well, my brother, he bowled a little bit. He was talented. He didn't care. My sister really was a very natural athlete. She chose not to participate in any sport that she was really going to be really good at. So they both just work. You know, my brother works for the city of Los Angeles now, and my sister moved to Texas, and she's doing her own thing. But I stay in touch with them, and they chose not to go the path I chose, and that's fine too. We all love each other. So.
Yeah, well, that's good. And everybody was supportive of what you did. And you know, what doesn't sound like your parents are like, no, Eddie, you need to be a doctor.
No. My dad, the one thing my mom taught me was, she goes, have respect for yourself and make sure people respect you. And those things matter.
Absolutely. They matter.
So, like I said, I didn't come from a lot. My mom and dad, we struggled. When we were young, you know, a pot pie on Friday nights was the treat of the week.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it wasn't like we had a lot, but, you know, the one thing that we did have was a lot of love. We sang a lot. My aunt was a singer. So I had a lot of entertainment value in the family, but none of us really inspired those things. You know, it's very interesting when you look back at those things, how many of us didn't pursue what was probably gifted to us that we didn't think about.
Right. But it sounds like you came from a very strong family background with love and support. And like, that's like, it seems like that's a springboard to whatever it is that you want to do.
And they get you through a lot of hard times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you see now? I mean, you see a lot of people coming, you know, and like,
so, you know, it's a very interesting time that we live in, but, you know, when I moved here, it took a long time for me to be, I'll say accepted in running this facility. Okay. We bought it from a family who was very well known, Dan Kukuk and Kay, and they were royalty in this bowling community. And so, of course, us buying it and being from California, not a lot of happy people, you know. We do have a very, very nice bowling center.
Yes, you do.
And I'm going to say it, but nicest bowling centers in this area. Okay. And so for somebody, an outsider to come in and purchase a diamond, was a little daunting at times because people didn't know.
Right. They
didn't know what was going to happen, what was going to change, if there were going to be changes. And so those challenges were met. You know, we had to go through some rough times, and I've been through a lot of rough times since I've been here. Luckily, I've survived all of them.
What was rough?
Okay. And I'm glad you asked me this question, but I remember 2010, and this could be emotional. My owners came in. We made some changes, big changes. Okay.
To the facility itself?
To the business itself.
Okay.
As far as how you pay people and what you do and what you can offer. Because our goal was, hey, if we want to be here in 5 years, these are the things that need to be made. And that includes pay cuts. That includes, you know, hours being reduced and stuff along those lines. Well, we did that, and it was fast. We made some changes. You know, they said, hey, Eddie, if we're going to do this, this is what you have to do. So going around giving out bad news is not the greatest thing in the world.
Especially when you're newish on the...
Correct.
Yeah.
You know, and so here I am going around giving bad news, you know, not being mean, just saying, hey, you guys...
It is what it is.
If we want to be here in 5 years, this is what we have to do. Yeah. So we went through a lot of that, and success came as far as turning it around from a deficit of a business that was accepting losses of $100,000 a month to profiting in literally 8 months. Yeah. Because of my great owner. His name is Rick Stein. Great. We had to do the hard stuff, and he was willing to do it. And I was willing to stand in with him and go through this. And we did. And But it also came with not understanding, because we have a casino, not understanding all of what needs to be disclosed. Okay. So, and what I mean by that is we had turned the business around, and my ownership at the time, there was another gentleman named Rick. His last name was Provost, great friend of mine. We turned it around. And so they wanted to make the profits that we have and expand our brand. Okay. Well, not knowing these things, you have to disclose you have to disclose whenever you move money in this building to the Gambling Commission.
Sure.
Okay. So, I think that money was being used, not illegally, but used to fund other things that we wanted to accomplish. Well, that did not sit well with the Gambling Commission. Okay. So with that being said, money came up missing that I don't think was ever missing. I think it was just used to do other things.
What kind of other things?
Like, we wanted to do, some form of and I'm not sure, it was a company that we wanted to start up. I think it was an icy company. I can't remember exactly.
A what company?
Icy, like a frozen ice,
like shave ice,
type of thing. Not sure. We rented out. I think they leased a cabin, Big Bear, stuff like that. Stuff. I mean, when you turn around a business and you're successful, you want to enjoy some of your successes,
right? So it was related to the business, but not.
It was related to the business, but not disclosed to the Gambling Commission.
Gotcha.
Okay. So the Gambling Commission looks at it as theft. Well, I own a title. I'm a manager. My owners live in Tennessee and California. Who's going to get arrested?
You.
Correct. So I went through that arrest, and I was in there like, I don't know, less than 30 hours. Okay.
Yeah.
And publicly, obviously, I took a beating.
Yeah. When was this?
This was in 2009, 2000.
Okay.
It was rough. It was rough. My best friend, Sherry, was accused as well. So we were both arrested. It was a hard time.
Yeah.
Come to find out that, when we did get arrested, they didn't have much on us because they couldn't find any money. We didn't have the money.
So they arrested you for theft?
Yes, of $180,000.
Okay.
You can look at what my humble beginnings and what I have and say, he doesn't have $180,000. And they targeted her really bad and her husband because he works for Hollywood, and it was a mess.
Yeah.
And so we ended up going to court. They really targeted her unfairly, I believe. And when that case ended, they found her guilty. She did the Alford plea. They found her guilty, and the judge says, you're going to pay restitution on $180,000. You got to pay $50 a month.
How's that going to work?
When I say this story, and I tell people this, and I say $50 a month, every person goes, what? Yeah, exactly. So even though we were found guilty, when you hear that, were they guilty? Or did they just decide that they wanted a win?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we paid $50 a month. But it wasn't the $50 a month. It was what you did to me on a very personal level that friends down in California, people across the country that knew me as a bowler, they're passing judgment on me. They're telling me.
Eddie went bad.
Yeah. Yeah, it was horrible. And I mean, we're talking a lot of pain, but I had a choice. I could pick up and leave, or I could stand in and win. And that's how I viewed it. And I said to myself, in my place, in my apartment, I'm not going anywhere.
Good for you. I mean,
and I stood in through this whole thing. And guess what? Early 2025, they reinstated my gaming license, which gave me a level of innocence that I seeked for 15 years. It took a long time, but I reapplied for my gaming license because I lost it because of that. And so here I am running a business that has a casino, and prior to me losing my gaming license, I had full control of the business. Right. Not that I'm a control freak, but I had abilities to make decisions. So for 14 years, I couldn't make any decisions gaming wise.
Why did they do that? Like, what was there, like, was it a term or was it any kind of a
term?
Like, okay, you lost your gaming license for this many years and now you can have it back. Or did they just say, let's say it's been long enough. Let's give him his gaming license back.
Good question. I don't know that answer. I do know that I had tried a few times and the gentleman would tell me no. And it hurt, But this gentleman, Raul, recently told me to reapply again. And I did. And it went through. And I was just relieved because it just gave me a level of innocence that I seeked because I know I wasn't a criminal. I knew I didn't do that. And so it took years though. It hurt.
Yeah, I imagine so.
And standing in and knowing people are passing judgment on you and not knowing the story was just heartbreaking. It destroyed relationships. I don't talk to my friend Sherry. It's been a few years now. I will reach out to her soon, but it was a lot.
Yeah, I imagine so. Well, I'm sorry that you went through that.
You grow from this pain, and I've grown a lot. So
sometimes you grow in ways that you're not expecting, and you grow in ways that maybe they're not always good ways, but it's still growth nonetheless.
Correct. 100%.
So I guess at some point it would have been nice if somebody had said, sorry about that, man.
Yeah. Well, you'll never get, that. No apologies needed, but apology accepted if you want to give me one, But it was a rough time.
So switching gears real quick, you're here. I want to back up real quick because I meant to ask you this earlier on and we got caught up in the story. But your kid on the, all this professional bowling, you never once said anything about, business acumen or learning business or anything. How did you suddenly dive into the business world and take on a business?
Like I said, so I came off tour and opened up a bowling pro shop. I had two friends who wanted me to run it. Again, they knew my ability to talk to people, disarm people, customer service, all that. I learned how to drill bowling balls. So I started to drill bowling balls, open up a pro shop, run this business. And then I started to slowly assume responsibilities in the center that that was run by AMF. And I started building leagues. People I knew, hey, let's build a league. Let's do this. Let's do that. So I started doing this and building leagues. And Bill Masani, owner of a bowling center that I previously worked at, that helped me get on tour, came and visited me and watched my growth. He took me under his wings. He goes, hey, I'm going to take you to my bowling center. You're going to run this pro shop. It's going to be a little smaller. And you're also going to be my league coordinator. So he taught me the inside ropes to how to run a bowling center. Bowling is recession proof. Okay. And what I mean by that is you can adjust your numbers based on what the economy is telling you. If people have money, you can leave your prices where they are, but you can also run specials. You can create business for those who can't afford to spend that kind of money, but want the participation and the entertainment value. So he taught me a lot on how to run a business and how to talk to people and just how to understand this business requires a certain level of building relationships, making it feel like they belong. Remember their names, remember who they are, how is their family, how is the kids, all these things matter. He loved the fact that he goes, if you're at the desk and no one's at the desk, you're more than welcome to go down and speak to your customers. Go down and speak to them, get to know them. Every once in a while he would say, hey, I'm going to give you a $200 budget and I want you to pick up people, not people that you know, who you don't know. Buy their dinner, bond them to your business.
That's cool.
Give them a reason to say, hey, I have $50. What do I want to do with it? Oh, I'm going to go to a place that knows my name.
It's like cheers.
And cares about me. And I can get this much done. I can bowl, I can eat, I can have a drink. My kid can play some arcade games, and I got full value out of my $50.
I never considered that before. That bowling, seems like that's part of the reason why bowling would help maintain a family-friendly environment, that it can be flexible with the economy. If the economy goes south, you can adjust to that.
Sure.
Whereas, like a lot of sports, they would suddenly become out of reach to a lot of people. That's very interesting. I did not know that.
There's a gentleman who owns a bowling center over here in Idaho. Mm-hmm. I was bowling a tournament, and I'm trying to qualify for this tournament. Mm-hmm. Okay. And he comes and sits next to me. Hey, Eddie, how you doing? I know you're in Lilac Lane, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, why are you talking to me right now? Mm-hmm. Make the cut. But he said something to me, and we talked about this earlier. You talked about it. You said, hey, our family gets together, we bowl, we have a good time. Mm-hmm. He says, Eddie, I look at leagues. He goes, I'm from the South. He's from Mississippi or something like that. He says, I look at leagues like church. He goes, they come once a week to fellowship with the people that they want to. Mm-hmm. And they look forward to those 3 hours of entertainment with these people. And I said to myself, that's awesome. That is perfect, because that's true. The league you bowled in on Thursdays, that league's together. Mm-hmm. They've been there for years.
Yeah.
Why? They like each other.
Yeah.
They enjoy that 3 hours of competition, fun competition, because we're all going to work tomorrow.
Yeah.
But they enjoy each other. And for 2 or 3 hours, they get to spend time asking each other, how's it going?
Absolutely. And I looked forward to that. And for me, it was at the time, I had a youngin' at home, and, and I'm looking forward to coming back to the league.
Right. I mean, those are the things that, as I've grown through this business, that you look at and you go, there's value here that you have no idea. There's relationships that you build that you have no idea you would have never built. Yeah. Bowling's a great game that is not seen the way that it really truly is. You know what I mean? We build leagues here, non-sanctioned leagues. And these people, I have them bowled 12 weeks. Then I kick them out for 6 weeks. I said, the next league's going to start up in 4 to 6 weeks. Mm-hmm. Okay, sign me up. They love it. They love each other. They love bowling with the people that they bowl with, and it just speaks to a community. It's a community type of business. And so, when you build a bowling center, you got to know your surroundings, who you have around you within 5 miles of your bowling center. Mm-hmm. Those are your people. Bring them in. Give them a place that they enjoy, and you respect them and they respect you. And before you know it, you do have success in this industry.
So this is a general question, and I think it's relevant now based on what you just said, but I kind of like to get your take on what we're doing as a society, because I see so many people so locked in on their phones all the time that they don't have the slightest idea what is going on around them, much less who they could be talking to or interacting with. You see a lot of people, and I imagine you do a lot of people watching. What do you see?
I see a sad, sad time, because the lack of communication and the lack of social interaction is happening right in front of us. Like you said, people are in their phones. I've sat down for dinner next to a family.
I know.
4.
Yep. And they're all on the phone.
They're all on the phone. I'm like, what are we doing?
Yes.
I've had friends, we sat down, we put our phones down. First one grabs the phone, pays the bill.
Yeah.
We're going to sit here and talk. We're going to sit here and just build a relationship and understand each other a little bit.
Yeah.
But the first one to grab the phone and look at it, you pay the bill.
Yeah, good. That's the way it should be. And then in my house, we don't even bring our phones to the table. It's dinner time. We're all going to sit down. We're going to eat dinner together. And it's actually one of the things that would kind of get on my nerves on league. It's like, everybody, we're talking, like there's 4 people on the team. There's 3 of us talking and bullshitting and having a good time. And the 4th person's on the phone. And every frame, you all have to, hey, go, goddammit.
You're up. Yeah. I'm like, what are we doing here? And it has become it's sad, because if I could run a league and say
no phones
allowed, I wonder how many people would join that league.
I'd join.
It's an interesting concept because I do think, and I watch kids all the time, and our junior program, we make it so that you cannot be on your phone.
Good.
Bowling league.
Yeah.
But kids, they're addicted to this thing. And I think they've been lost because they don't sit with each other and talk to each other.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to get on the soapbox, but
no, get on the soapbox.
I think homeschool has a place, but I also think social awareness needs to be part of homeschooling, because I have a lot of kids who are homeschooled who have no social skills.
Yeah.
And I think that they can be great kids, but they really need to learn how to talk to others. Because I think that when you grow up and you get into the world is made up of customer service.
Yes.
Okay. It's not made up of, working in corporate America. Made up, even in corporate America, social.
Yeah. You have to be able to get along with people. You have to be able to talk to people.
Yes. You got to be able to look at them. Yeah. You can't just text a person and that's how you're going to communicate.
Yeah.
And I think that we've been lost. And I think we're in a world of hurt.
I think we're in a difficult spot. And I think that conversations like this, if it raises the awareness of one person that says, hey, let's go bowling and leave our phones at home.
Right.
How cool would that be?
Right.
But I realize I get on my kid, I'm like, hey, get off the computer, get off the phone, get off the tablet. It's, I can play we're going to take everything away game and go outside and play. But it's difficult because it didn't occur to me until I went to, with this function for the school, and they're talking about all the stuff that they do on their computers at school. And I was like, so let me get this straight. Their schooling is now largely computer based, but now you're going to tell us that we need to monitor their computer usage when you just had them for the last, 6-7 hours?
Right.
Come on, man.
So let me ask you, you have kids.
Yeah.
Do your kids have homework?
They don't have, they do and they don't.
Right.
Because if they have homework, it's not like when we had homework. We had a book, and it's like, if I was struggling with something, it's like, all right, well, let's sit down and look at the book. Or, oh, you got a packet? All right, let's look at the packet. Like everything has to be dug out of Power School, or, oh no, that was all done in the computer in class or something. And I'm like, what is the deal? There's there's two things that come to mind on that. And I don't want to get up on my soapbox because this is a show about Eddie, but the math, like she'll come home and there's like, oh, I have to do 5 problems. I got to do 5 problems. I'm like, I had to do 35 problems. And I feel like there's this idea now that so that we don't leave any kid behind, we're going to do it until we get one right, as opposed to we're going to keep doing it until we can't get it wrong anymore. And reports, I don't see written reports anymore. The ability to research, the ability to articulate. It's like, oh, well, if you can make 10 Google slides, we can call it a day. And I don't see it like that.
I think that it's hard. And I think our generation of people who I think are fantastic, because I think we're that generation that has seen the old generation. We're aware of the new generation.
Yep.
And we're just trying to figure out how this is going to work moving forward. I just think that it's and I understand. I have friends who are teachers, and they explain that, you don't get homework because parents can't understand the new curriculum of education. So they get it. You bring home a problem and 2 + 2 is 4. No, that's not the answer anymore.
Yeah.
How did you get to 2 + 2? And you got to write this whole problem out. And so the common sense part of life is kind of being pushed aside because you have to explain out everything, instead of being able to understand, well, 2 + 2 = 4. Why does it equal 4? And so, we can go down that road. It's crazy. But, I think from a social standpoint, I think the world has changed quite a bit. And I think it's kind of scary.
I think it's kind of scary too. And I think the more we have this conversation, the more we've discussed this, and more like the versatility that I see offered from the sport of bowling, it's actually kind of cool to I'm thinking about it in a new light now that we've talked about it. And I guess I'd like to see more people come packing into your lanes. And,
we're very fortunate because we do have a very successful league bowler base.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that, and it's kind of amazing that I have quite a bit of this age gap of, let's say, 30 to 45. These are people who have kids and their kids are old enough. So now they want to do something, and they're all bowling now a little bit more. I have a great pro shop operator. And so he comes out, he talks to these people. He makes 130 bowlers feel good. He takes care of the 220 bowler. He treats them all the same. And he's built this culture of people who on their lunch break, they come and bowl. They come in and bowl for an hour. Sometimes they come in and they see that we have a pro shop and they go, oh, they have a pro shop. Great service. I'm going to buy my own bowling ball. Now I get them to join a league. So we have a great bowler base here. I would love to have a great bowler base in every bowling center in Spokane, because I think that bowling, especially up here, because this is a very seasonal game. It's a seasonal area. From September to October, or September to April, we'd love to see every bowling center full, with people coming in, bowling, enjoying themselves, building these relationships, seeing the success of this game, because bowling is got the stigma of smoking, dirty, and it's not.
Well,
not our center.
Yeah, maybe it does, but what's funny? I never thought about that that way, because I just look at it as like, I'm going to go up there and throw a few games and I'm going to have a beer with my buddies and it's going to be great.
Well, and your buddies are all highly competitive buddies.
Oh, I know. Which sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes it's a bad thing.
Fantastic thing. It's a family. You guys are a family.
Yeah.
And that's what I when I sit back and I listen to my bowling center, because I think that's the most important part, is when you're standing behind your desk and you're looking out and you have a full house, you want to hear a lot of noise in your conversation. When you hear it quiet, it's not good. The energy levels are not where you need it to be. You want that bowling center to be alive.
Yeah.
And there are nights, I don't think I have very many nights like that anymore where it's kind of quiet, maybe the beginning of the week, because it's the beginning of the week. Everyone's starting to go back to work after a weekend. Yeah. But you come in here on a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, it's so loud, positive, it's happy, and it's joyous. And those things warm my heart, because that means that we're doing things right.
Absolutely. Was there anything else that you'd like to pass on, or anything else you'd like to? All right. Hey, man.
Incredible.
This was a great talk. I really enjoyed this, and I really appreciate you being on my show.
Oh, absolutely. Anytime. I appreciate you inviting me.
All right. Well, hey, brother, take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Well, that's our show for today, and I'd like to thank you for being here. I try to practice a little bit of gratitude every day, and I'm grateful for my team. First, I'd like to thank my guests for allowing me into their homes and for putting up with the mess at my house. Next, I'd like to thank my main man, J-Mac, at Studio 42 for his audio prowess. A lot of guys want him to be in their gang because he's pretty good with a bow staff, but I appreciate him editing my material. And next, I'd like to thank Heather at Ravenous Raven Design for my kick-ass website. Have a great day, be excellent to each other, and party.